spawning up here in the top right position of Oxide to start things off. He is Alpha X's own RAGNAROK. And his opponent hanging out in the bottom of the map. He is for Dragon Phoenix Gaming, Cure. Now, if you guys are familiar with how this works, basically it is 4 players in 2 best-of-5 series, the winner of which will go on to the final best-of-5 for their chance at the lion's share of a $200 prize pool. That's right, these guys are playing for keeps in that regard. Now, kind of coming in here, taking a look at things. Looks like neither side wants to start things off too crazily, which I can understand. It is a bit of a more aggressive map, so it can be a little bit better to kind of just start things off and just kind of play it not necessarily defensive, but just kind of be a bit more macro focused so that if your opponent is going for some sort of 2-base or 3-base push, you can kind of defend it quite easily. Now, Cure does want to get some information here. He wants to make sure that it was hatched first. So he's just going to be sending this SCV across the map to confirm that. And once he does, looks like he does have that backup Reaper as well. While RAGNAROK gonna get an extra pair of lings just to stay 100% safe. The best way to look at it, if you make 4 lings, you're expecting to lose 1. If you make 6 lings, you're expecting to lose none of them. Small things just really add up in this matchup, especially. Everything else is looking relatively normal here, as Kier will be going up to that factory, and from the positioning, it looks like that'll be just straight up Hellions. That's obviously one of the best ways to put it. RAGNAROK, though, I don't really like this move from him. He's hiding the drone, expecting the Reaper to kind of be there. So he does delay his 3rd hatch by a little bit. And that might come back to hurt him here, because we do see Cure is going for the 3rd CC. So he is actually going to be ahead in terms of that base count, as funny as it is to seem in this matchup. Looks like RAGNAROK as well is going to be getting some pneumatized carapace just to keep these overlords very, very fast, speedy boys. Now, RAGNAROK is a player who loves to kind of sit in that mid-game situation. He loves to be aggressive. He loves to kind of push and kill you before you get to those late games armies, which are a little bit hard to deal with as a Zerg player. And so, you know, kind of getting that drone count up very, very early is super important, super critical for that kind of moveset, because you just want to be pumping army during the mid game. You never want to have to remake drones. So he has his queens in position. The Hellion count not really that high right now, so it's a little bit easy to defend, but as that Hellion count starts to rise, you have to be even more careful. Cure will be getting the Banshee and Cloak behind it. RAGNAROK has full vision of this, so he's just going to keep his queens into position. And you know what? I doubt that Cure is really going to get too much done with the Hellions. You can kind of see he's rotating around, looking for that opening. But the queens are always in position. They have the creep down, so they are pretty darn speedy. And so Cure doesn't want to lose those Hellions, because his first big attack will be using those Hellions to augment his forces to make them a little bit more tanky. Get a couple of but Tumorson just back on out. A nice KD8 charge. Just going to keep these queens on their toes, jumping them up in the air. Oh, the queens are actually going a little bit far off of creep. That might be a little bit problematic, as they will not be in position for these Hellions to go into the third base here, but the Lings being brought over to kind of stop that. And there we go. Ragnarok is going to be going for Spire Tech. Now, this is kind of what I'm talking about here when I say that he likes the mid game, because Ling Bane Muta is very mid game oriented. It's deceptively expensive because of how much gas you're expending just to keep that Muta count up, how many Banelings you need to stay safe and defend. So you're kind of delaying your hive for quite a bit of time, so you do need to get damage done with it. Now we do see Cure getting ready to move out. He's got his +1 upgrades started. No armory, so these Hellions are just going to be Hellions for right now. But a nice pick off there. One Hellion will go down. A second may follow. Ragnarok has to be a little bit careful, though. He's taking quite a few hits on these Lings. Looks like a third drone did go down there. But now comes the Mutas. So he should be able to shut down these Banshees, which are trying to make their way in, and just get little bits of damage where they can. In fact, they're going to find a little bit more damage right now. The Spore Crawler just a little bit out of range, so 3 more workers will fall. Now, every time that Ragnarok has to remake these workers, remember, that's going to be one set of links that he does not have. That's a lot of potential damage lost because he has to remake those, but here we go. Another nice little pickoff there. Another Hellion going down. That is a big army back at home, though, for Cure. Let's take a look at that army size. Cure actually ahead in that regard. The Muta's going to find this, seize the move out, and they're going to have to be a little bit careful with how they rotate around. You're going to try and get a snipe, but he will be able to get the Mutas out of there. And it looks like he's going to just try and fight off the edge of creep here. He doesn't want to really go too far onto it just yet. But getting into these choke points can be quite dicey, especially since you can kind of see he doesn't have a lot of healing potential with this army. I gotta say, though, Cure's macro is looking very good right now. 6 Marines at a time. Nice pick off there by Ragnarok, just kind of stopping the reinforcements from joining in with this attack. Muta's trying to come around in the backfield to get on top of the siege tanks. Ragnarok, not a full surround, but a pretty good engagement right there. He's just got to be ready for the follow-up. Looks like the Baneling's not going off when it had the chance. That was a lot of missed potential there for that Bane. So basically now, Cure still has some army supply available to him. He still has quite a few Marines. And in terms of that unit count, there's only 1 Baneling on the map. So that is going to be a big problem for Ragnarok. He needs to get that Baneling count up very, very quickly here. You're just going to try and clear up that rock wall to give himself a much faster attack path to Ragnarok's base. But he is still going to... Looks like he's just going to try and be a little bit more defensive here. The Overseer goes down. But now comes the biggest point for this game. Who transitions first? As you can see, Cure has the +2 upgrade advantage for just a second there. And, you know, Ragnarok's not too far behind, but that's when the +3 attacks start to come in. So Cure will have a much faster +3. Ragnarok, though, gonna try and find an angle to come in here, but that is some good positioning on those Marines. Gonna force the attack back, and he's gonna get sandwiched here by these Marines. We also see that infestation pit coming on down, so Ragnarok gonna try and go up to Hive. Doesn't have a ton of gas in order to do so. And Cure is pushing at his front door. I say front door, he's still in the middle of the map, but you know what I mean. That's a very close position on Oxide. I think the biggest problem here for Cure is that he's being a little bit too passive with this army in the front. He's really respecting the power of Zerg. A big stim right there, gonna get quite a few mutas for the cost of one tank. I think it was actually a worthwhile trade for him. Cure just kind of engaging up here in the top left. And slowly moving his way towards that fourth base. A little bit too slow, if I do say so myself, because he's giving a lot of opportunity for Ragnarok to build up that Bane count, to get up to Hive. But here we go, a full 360 surround. Cure not going to take the best of engagements here. Take some big Baneley connections, and Ragnarok will be able to crush his way through. So Cure, he didn't really have the best splits with that. It looks like he focused a little bit too hard on the front, and now his third base is going to pay the price for it. Not really going to get a ton of the SCVs, so a little bit of wasted potential with that, but you know, Cure is now down over 50 supply. Taking a look at that battle report, 95 Marines went down in that assault. And now Ragnarok is going to look to just close this out. But will he have enough slings to do so? It looks like the answer is no, not yet. Yeah, and this kind of becomes the problem for Ragnarok, actually, because he has expended all of his Banelings. He's gonna have to remake them, so that gives a lot of time for Cure to recover. Since not a lot of SCVs went down, Cure still has a very strong economy on 4 bases. Gonna add on a couple of Thors here as well to deal with the mutas. I don't even know if he really needed to do so there. I think at this point, with the Hive tech coming on in, like, Cure needs to transition. You know, Mass Marine, it can be very powerful. But at this stage in the game, you definitely want something more beefy to deal with the Banes in the front. You need Marauders. And if he saw anything like Ultralisks or Broodlords or anything like that, he would also need to get some Ghosts. Just anything else other than just Mass Marine. I gotta say, this is an epic first game for our first best of 5 of the day. And look at that, all those empty reactors. That's a lot of potential for growth here, but here we go. Another big attack. The Muta's gonna try and come in as Cure is moving out. The creep hasn't been respread in this position. So Cure can get pretty close to this 5th base location, but that's just gonna lead Ragnarok to a counterattack. Plenty of Marines back at home to deflect all those Banelings going down. And Cure just gonna try and bait some of this forces forward. A little bit of a hot pickup right there. Cure still Cure is maxed out. Ragnarok as well. Just kind of very slowly inching off the edge of creep there. A couple of big connections with those siege tanks as well. Keep in mind, they do not have any attack upgrades, so they are not doing the best damage that they can. But now Cure is dividing and conquering here. A big push coming on in. Cure losing his splits for a second, but that is not the most cost-efficient trade for Ragnarok. And so these Marines are going to be able to keep this position going. The Banelings once again trying to get in here, but now it is just pure Lings. 19 more Banes on the way. Will it be enough? Is the main question. Cure holding a very slight army supply advantage. And as he adds on those Marauders, it's going to be even more difficult for those Banes to get the connections that they need. Especially with these mines and the position that Cure has set up. But he's going to try and dive right on top of this. The Ultras joining in the fray. They do have chitinous plating. But Cure is starting to focus fire those down. Looks like one of them will barely survive, and a full medevac goes down. So RAGNAROK able to clean this up. Wow. Was not expecting that. I think the big problem is here, RAGNAROK, while he has the army supply advantage, he's got to be careful not to overextend. As you can kind of see, he doesn't really have any Banes with this. He doesn't really have a lot of support for these units on the ground, so the Ultralisks can be focused down a little bit easier. And, yeah, just got to be really careful. He does get 5 worker kills there and secures this 5th base. But Cure's economy is still humming away. Plenty of Marines, plenty of Marauders to try and stop this. RAGNAROK pretty much has to get this 4th base in order to keep this game going, and he does get that. The Ultras, though, trying to fight on its own. The Bane's not getting the best of connections right there. That Ultra will go down, but in the end, it's just not enough. GG is called. Down here in the bottom right position of the map, give it up for RAGNAROK. And his opponent, down here in the bottom left side, he is Cure. Silly Cure, this isn't your base. So Cure kind of going for a bit of a holistic approach to this game. He's going to be adding on a couple of racks to RAGNAROK's side of the map. Now, RAGNAROK does have some overlords heading that way, but I think the big problem for him right now is, yeah, he's not going to see it. He needs to move that overlord positioning in order to kind of catch a glimpse of this. Luckily, though, he does have that spawning pool first, which should help out, like, a lot. Kind of a, not necessarily a blind counter, but a good counter. Alright, RAGNAROK kind of gets a glimpse of this. He sees that there is nothing in the main base. So that's going to really start to raise the alarm bells, adding on a couple of additional Lings to just kind of scout out, find out where this is coming from. A spine crawler as well to help as the Lings going to try and engage this, but there are enough Marines to kind of stop that. Gets one of the SCVs, though. That is a nice pickoff here. Makes it a little bit difficult for Cure to keep this going. The hatchery is not done, however, so he might have to make a decision. Does he sacrifice this, or does he let it finish? Looks like he is going to let it finish because, honestly, he needs some of that creep if he's going to try and fight this. But the bunker will finish, and that is an absolutely humongous deal. The Queen trying to fight from a distance. But now, with that bunker complete, Cure has established a very strong position right now. Even going to try and get on top of the spine crawler. The Lings going in for a Hail Mary surround. Will be able to get rid of the SCV and will be able to clean this up. So Cure going down in a very quick 2-0. What a series so far. And it looks like RAGNAROK's not going to go for that spawning pool first. Luckily for him, all the buildings are where they are supposed to be this time. As we're going to see Kier going for a little bit of an expedition just to make sure that the same is true for his opponent. So nothing too crazy to start this one out. I think this is kind of one of those maps where you can't really afford to do anything too crazy. As Cure, you're down 2 games. You need to win the next 3 in order to stay alive. And so he's just going to be playing this one a lot more straight up. I feel like we're going to see a lot similar to game number 1. But I think the biggest thing for Cure is that he has to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more multitasking. As you kind of saw, he was trying to focus on fighting with one army, which is good in the later stages of the game, but early on, you really do kind of want to trade out in multiple locations. Force your opponent to make a ton of lings, force your opponent to be remaking Banes consistently, otherwise you're just going to fall behind. What happened in game number 2? Cure tried to 2 racks, and RAGNAROK stopped it with a spawning pool first. Invisibles. So once again, RAGNAROK going to be going up to speed. He's adding on a couple of additional links just to make sure that he's completely safe versus this. RAGNAROK being a little bit aggressive, trying to get rid of this Reaper. He wants to deny vision from his opponent, and I can see why, as RAGNAROK is actually going for quite a few additional links. Now, this has the chance to either be really good for him or not so good, because he is sacrificing his early game economy to get this number of links. But he is throwing up behind it, so it looks like he's not going to be too aggressive with it. He's probably just trying to stay relatively safe. And so we do see some additional queens. And yeah, it looks like he's going to be adding on the Banshees as well, so very similar to game number 1. Trying to deny that vision, but those Overlords are very quick, so even the Pult Viking can't shoot them down in time. RAGNAROK did get in there, and he saw the swap over, so he knows that Banshee's on their way. Cure, though, he's not going for Cloak. Impact on the way. Cure does have his 3rd base down very quickly, so we are actually on equal worker production. I always feel like on these 3 base versus 3 base, the Terran player has an innate advantage just because his units are a little bit beefier in the early game. They're much more cost efficient, and it can be quite difficult for the Zerg player to kind of keep up only on 3 bases. So, Cure is really going to have to leverage that fact if he wants to win this one out. Looks like a little bit of a later lair timing as well for RAGNAROK and his upgrades. Just a hint delayed. Oh yes, Aaron ACKR. This is 100% real. At least I think it is, but how can we know? If our eyes aren't real, how do we know if anything is real? Yeah, both players kind of just powering up right now. These Hellions rotating in, looking for an opening. Won't really find one. Like I said, this is a little bit difficult of a map to get in there. You can kind of see Ragnarok is trying to just kind of clear up some of these choke points, clear up some of the ways that he can kind of get around and stop the army from getting into a good position here. But in the end of the day, Cure really wants to save these Hellions because they are such a good addition to your first attack. The Hellbats, super powerful and super good at cleaning up a lot of those Banes. Beautiful connection right there as well, forcing a lot of energy that could go towards Transfuse on respreading that creep. Once again, Ragnarok going to go for one of his favorite units, the Mutalisks here, as Cure getting into position for quite a powerful push. Stimpak is complete. Combat Shields is not, so you have to be a little bit careful as Cure until that completes. Otherwise, you're going to get one shot. But this is relatively a solid timing. Ragnarok getting right on top of the Hellions, though, never having the chance. As he cleans those up, the Baneling's going to try and dive on top of the Marines. And so Cure will get deflected. A nice engagement there from Ragnarok. So Cure still going to try and utilize this bottom position to attack into Ragnarok, not really respreading the creep in this direction. The mines do burrow, but they don't get the chance to go down. And the Baneling's going to be able to force this away. Cure not able to split. A good focus fire going to get rid of one of the mutas, but takes a big connection there from the Banes in return. Funnily enough, the supplies are still in Cure's favor. His army supply 72 to 66. But he's just got to be careful not to take an engagement like that again. He can't afford to trade out inefficiently at this stage in the game. Ling Bane Muta, like I've said, you really need to keep that critical mass of Mutas, that critical mass of Banes, of Lings, in order to kind of expand and grow into that hive tech. So if Cure can kind of trade out efficiently, force him to spend that gas, force him to spend that small bank that he has of close to 1,000 minerals, then he's never going to be able to go up to those +3 upgrades, to those Ultralisks. But I do like this from Cure this time. He is kind of expanding his tech a little bit quicker. He's getting Marauders to soak up the Banes. He's getting more than just mass Marine Mine. He's also being a little bit passive here, just cleaning up the creep and retreating, not really getting anything from the economy. So Ragnarok hitting that critical mass of 97 workers will be able to just pump out that army supply very, very quickly. The Banes trying to make their way in. They will get one up. Poor SCV at the edge of their vision. But Cure's actually going to be a supply block for a little bit. I don't think he really minds too much, because he will be able to get those supply depots back. But yeah, he's kind of stuck in his base for a couple of minutes here in order to defend against the Mutas, which are about to get sandwiched. Oh, that could have been really bad for Ragnarok. The Medivacs, though, getting a little bit too far forward for themselves. Got to be careful there. Bane's trying to roll on forward to get rid of the Widow Mines. There is still a couple left with this army. The Infestation Pit has gone down, but no Hive to follow it up just yet. He gets a cancel down here in the bottom. We'll be able to get rid of some of these Banelings as well. It looks like he's just going to try and leverage this position. The Mutas being a little bit indecisive about where they want to go. But here we go. Ragnarok is going to try and get right on top of this. The split from Cure, not really the best. He's going to take a lot of damage to this. But Ragnarok rolling a little bit too far forward will expend quite a few of his units to do so. Now here comes the problem for Cure. Ragnarok can rebuild his army much, much quicker than Cure can, so every time Cure takes a fight like that, he's going to get weaker and weaker every single time. Luckily for him, he will have that +3 weapons advantage, but oh my god, what a huge engagement there from Ragnarok. Once again, just cleaning up this army. And while Cure is still trying to keep this position rolling, he is just gonna hemorrhage units doing so. As his army is not fighting all together, Ragnarok is gonna try and push his way forward. Doesn't want to overextend. But he has pushed Cure all the way back. Kind of taking a look at that battle report here. Looks like Ragnarok actually killed 17 of his own lings somehow. I don't know how that happened. But the Muta's now going to be able to find a nice position where they can kind of engage for a little bit longer. Here. Looks like he's going to start rotating to the top side to defend his bases as they're going down. You're finally going to be able to get a drop it going in, but Ragnarok is all over this. You're going to find a base that is not being defended. The Baneling count, once again, a little bit non-existent. 14 Banes is nice, but a lot of them are actually over here trying to get on top of this base. A good pull from Cure, going to save his economy. Take a look at it. Ragnarok is maxed out. He's going up to Ultralisks. Tightness plating will be a long ways off. Muta's getting a little bit too close for comfort to those Thors. Some big connections going down. But Cure has managed to secure this top side of the map. And he's going for the Ghost Academy, so he will be able to fight those Ultras tooth and nail. This is what I like to see from Cure, however. He's fighting on multiple fronts, forcing Ragnarok to decide. We've kind of seen Ragnarok as well, trying to take one big fight. He's got his entire army massed up here in the bottom, or down here in the bottom, rather. Looks like he lost quite a few of the Lings as well. But yeah, Cure is just going to be able to kind of push up here as the Mutas are trying to fight by themselves. The Thors going to get a couple of good connections on them. And yeah, this is, like, I don't want to say either of them is ahead right now. Because we are going to a pretty solid late game situation. But if Cure can keep it up, if Cure can continuously trade here, force Ragnarok to get rid of that bank that he's building up, it's going to go a little bit better for him because his positions are a little bit easier to defend with those planetary fortresses. And plus, at this point, he's going to start dropping down a lot of orbital commands, so he's going to be able to save quite a lot of that supply for our army since he can rely on mules. But only a couple of Banelings to defend down here. Finally, a few more morphing in, but they are all wasted on the Marauders. That was a huge fight. So while he's able to clean that up, that was very costly. A Pyrrhic victory, essentially, for Cure. Ragnarok going to try and take advantage of the momentary lapse, but unfortunately, there's still quite a bit of army. It's getting a little bit trapped. The supply depots, a blessing and a curse, however, as Ragnarok overextends quite heavily, loses all of his Lings. So guys, one sec. So Cure, he's fighting up against the Ultras. 7 have joined the fray. but there's not a really huge Baneling count to help them out. Cure not really pre-splitting here. There we go. Now does so. He does have an okay army, but now Ragnarok gonna try and just push his way forward. Cure has to lift up the base. He has to retreat from this position. The Baneling's getting an okay connection right there. Widowmine's helping out any way that they can, but Cure is down 50 supply. He still has the bigger army, but he's got to get rid of these Ultralisks. Kite for your life, Cure. And kite for your series. As he does manage to clean that out. Ragnarok is broke at this point. But the problem is, so is Cure. So both sides having to kind of just rebuild for a second here. Looks like Ragnarok gonna go up to Corruptors. Does he have a Greater Spire? He does not. So these Corruptors are just gonna be to clean up the Medivacs here. If you can kind of force Cure to expend his gas on that, that's gonna be pretty good because that's less ghosts to help Cure out. I think the biggest problem for Cure is that he's trying to fight straight up. He's not really splitting his forces efficiently. And that's really causing him to not take the best engagements. Nuke does go down, but the drones were pulled, so not too many of them will happen. Or die, rather. These Lings gonna do a good job of kind of securing this position. The planetary fortress went down, and yeah, he does have that orbital to replace it, but every time you have to replace it with an orbital, that means your position is a lot less secure. As Cure tries to fight down here, or up here in the top, his ghosts are a little bit exposed. The rest of the army is gonna come down to help out, but he loses the planetary once again. Ragnarok. He's taking some very Pyrrhic victories, but it looks like he can afford to do so as 78 more Lings on the production tab. Now, bear in mind, however, Cure still has a very scary army to contend with up here in the top. With not that many Banes, he's going to fight off of creep. That's a very poor choice. The Ultras going to do what they can, but they are getting sniped like crazy here, and without the Baneling support, the Widowmine's gonna clean up a lot of the Lings. If Cure can keep this position, then he's gonna be able to push through, because once again, Ragnarok doesn't have any economy. He is broke. Gonna add on the nuke for good measure. Gotta be careful, however, as you do not want to nuke your own army. Why are you guys surprised? I'm always surprised. That's just like my default stage. So both sides did have a bank at one point. It is pretty much gone. It is the Great Depression all over again. Every unit is going to start to count here as the bases are starting to mine out. But once again, Ragnarok takes a not so good engagement. A huge concave from Cure. Ragnarok will be able to dance around, get rid of a lot of those SCVs, but there's plenty of orbital commands to kind of supplement the income count here. Good split from Cure, going to keep this alive. The Ultras do go down, and unfortunately, Ragnarok cannot afford to remake them. And that is going to be it. Cure. He is one game away from that finals. Let's see if he can do it. Give it up for Ragnarok. And his opponent up here in the top, looking for that reverse sweep. Can he do it? He needs your energy. He is Cure. Yeah, I don't know if the Shirt Eater is the right nickname, but that's what it says. So that's what I'm gonna go for. I don't know. It's always funny because when you think about it, all these guys who have like these super cool nicknames like Captain America, Smiling Assassin, stuff like that, and then you have the players who just have like weird nicknames like the Towel Terran is Gumiho, Shirt Eater is Solar. Ah, there you go. That makes sense. There was a clip of Solar eating his shirt. And then those are the players that you really have to worry for, the ones with the weird nicknames. Ah, okay. Anyway, getting back into this game before I forget or get too wrapped up in chat. We do see the SCV coming across. Did he skip the Reaper? He did not. But RAGNAROK is skipping nothing here, as he did go for spawning pool first. He's got a ton more lings on the way, 4 to be precise. Just going to be adding those on. He's going to be looking for a quick victory here on Jagannantha. This was scouted out, so all Cure has to do is defend the high ground. And he should be okay. Reaper going to be coming in here, trying to kind of keep some of these lings at home to defend. He does get that first kill. The second one should go down. But speed is about to finish up, and that is when RAGNAROK is going to let the noose hang. The wall is complete, however, so he's going to have to settle for poking away at this low ground. Now, Cure has to be very careful here. He's got to keep the Hellions producing one at a time, because if you lift up that Rax, you are opening yourself to a very, very dicey situation. But he forces the lift up here. And looks like he will be able to defend for now. So RAGNAROK has to just drone up behind this. He expended quite a bit to make this work. So he's actually behind in the worker count. And what's more to say is that he doesn't have a third base, while Cure is making his in the main. So where do we go from here? Obviously, RAGNAROK doesn't have any Bane, so he's not going to be able to break through that position. So he's just going to have to come home and kind of just tech up here. But it looks like instead, he's going to go for either 2-base Muta or Nidus to try and punish this greedy Terran player. Saying like, how dare you get a third before me? I don't even need one to beat you. Now, on Cured's side of things, I would love to see him kind of just drop that armory and go for a big Hellbat push with what he's got, because the thing of the matter is, RAGNAROK doesn't have a Baneling Nest, like, at all. So that, coupled with the fact that he's not going to have a ton of unit production, because he's only just now starting his third base, would lead to a very good situation for Cure if he decided to be aggressive right now. But it looks like instead he's just going to kind of power up, keep these Hellions rotating around. He sees that the third base isn't done just yet. Wondering what he canceled right there. Not entirely sure. Yeah, RAGNAROK doesn't really have a lot back at home. He's got 17 lings and 4 queens. Quite a small number when you think about it. All right, the Spire is done as well, so that's going to help him a little bit here. Queens are in position to shoo away these Hellions, just looking for a little room to breathe. Banshee heading towards that main base, and because he has such a low number of Queens, he's going to have to use the Mutas to defend, but they're not out just yet, so these two Banshees are going to get quite a few kills so far. 5 going down. And honestly, he's just going to go for it. He knows he loses the Banshees, so 8 worker kills. That's pretty good. I like that. Joe, here we go one more time. Thank you, Blue Hair Critic. 3-month streak for the subscription. You are keeping StarCraft 2 alive, my man. So these Mutas gonna head straight for the natural here. Almost running into the Marines. Got to be very careful. Once again, you do need to keep that Muta count quite high. Otherwise, you're in a lot of trouble here. The Hellions gonna try and fight in the front, but the Queens are gonna be able to shoot this away. The Mutas going to town, so they will never see the light. These Hellions losing the light of day. And from here, Cure has a very solid lead in so many different ways. His upgrades just about to finish kicking in. His combat shields about to finish. His +1 attack, +1 armor is done. And he actually has, once again, that army supply lead. That is the power of getting that third base so early. He just has so much more to work with. He's still being a little bit defensive, though. He does recognize the threat that these Mutas face. As they do get in here, get a little bit of a snipe. Solar versus Hero after this series. That is correct, Olu. I'm mispronouncing your name. But, yep, Solar versus Heroes will come up right after this. So once again, we see Cure. He's going to add on the Thors, add on the Widow Mines here, getting that combat, or drilling close. Dodalol. Let's see. Dodalol. That's your name. Yeah, Kira kind of just rotating around, looking for an angle here. The Mutas in the backfield can't really fight against this. They need the support from the Banelings in the front. RAGNAROK has quite a few units in position down here, so Kira's got to be careful with how he engages into this. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, Cure just kind of clearing up that creep. RAGNAROK, he's kind of in the camp that it's a little bit difficult for him to respread that because his queen count is so low. So as Cure kind of gets rid of that creep, he's going to be able to engage much further without RAGNAROK having vision of it. A big Widowmine connection right there. I think it took out quite a few of his own Marines. Taking a look at that. Yeah, no friendly fire, actually. Takes out 20 Lings with that fight. Pretty cost efficient here for Cure. But RAGNAROK, since he hasn't really taken too much economic damage, he will be able to go up to Hive relatively soon here as we see that infestation pit going on down. Cure is still equal in terms of that base count here. He just dropped his 4th base on location. Big hit from that Thor. Gonna take out some of that health, but not enough to clean him up just yet. So that Mutaball is still a very viable threat. Yeah, now both sides are completely maxed out. It's pretty much just a build-up here. The Cold War has started. Cure kind of just poking and prodding a little bit, but not really able to take that full-on engagement. Looks like RAGNAROK just going to send his whole army forward to clean up that small little poke. Yeah, the Muta's gonna be able to make their way in, but the missile turrets going to town. Those Mutas have to kind of retreat and go for a little bit of a rest and respite, or a respite, depending on where you are. Oh, big connection right there from those Banelings, taking out quite a few of the Marines, and Ragnarok gonna come in from the left flank as well. The Widowmine's not really getting the best of connections here, but it's gonna spend some of those Banes on the Thor. Cure, not paying attention to his army in the front, will take another big connection from those Banes. And now Ragnarok, feeling the pressure, is gonna go straight for the third base. So many Banelings have gone down. And honestly, I don't know if that was enough right there. He gets 10 workers, but at this point, I don't think Cure really needs them as much. He doesn't get the base either, so I don't know, Kev. Yeah, he spent 60 Banes on that as well. So that was a very Pyrrhic attack right there for Ragnarok. Now the Mutas were trying to engage somewhere else, so that's why they weren't with that attack. But here we go, Ragnarok getting clean up some of those reinforcements. And then the Marauders trying to soak up, but once again, Cure not paying attention. He is going to get cleaned up quite handily there in the front. Oh my goodness, this game is just going to mess with my head for a while. Lings do get an additional 9 workers, so that is very nice for Ragnarok. Cure delaying his +3 armor, so that's going to be a little bit far off. Missile turrets will get rid of one of the Mutas. Another run by. We'll get a little bit more. 4 more workers do go down. But before going down itself, Cure has the army supply. He has the total supply. He just needs to take a much better fight. Like, he can't afford to take these inefficient trades that he's been doing. Especially not with Ultras starting to join the mix. Once again, the Banes trying to move on forward. They will be able to clean up that small push in the front. Cure trying to fight. The pre-split is not that good, but the Banelings go down to the Widow Mines. Oh my goodness, that was a very good shot. Now Cure, he doesn't really have a lot here, but he does have enough to keep this position going. 17 more Banes fighting right there, but he will lose the base. Gonna just try and dive right on top of this. He needs to clean this base out, or excuse me, this attack out, and he will be able to do so, chasing it all the way back. But he just doesn't have enough to finish it. I think that is the biggest problem. Oh my god. If you play Zerg, you're gonna have nightmares about these Widow Mines. Just in that recent fight, he lost 269 Lings and 163 Banes. Oh my goodness. So now the biggest problem for Ragnarok is, since he doesn't really have a huge Bane count, he has to rely on these Mutas for defense, meaning that they're not going to be able to make it across the map and do damage at all. Ragnarok once again going to try and bait his way forward. But the Bane's not really getting the connections that they need. Cure, however, doesn't have enough to close things out. Once again, he's going to be pushed back. Bane's getting closer and closer here. Get a good connection right there. Honestly, I don't even know what to say about this game. It is so back and forth, seesaw action all over. I feel like with how small these armies are, I think Cure should just go for like some drop plays, some little pokes here with a small force of units, because Ragnarok won't really have enough to defend multiple locations at once. And to his credit though, Cure is going further and further ahead in terms of that supply. We'll be able to get a nice snipe on the Ultra before the fight really begins. Just gonna focus fire those down. Transfuse saves it for a second. A nice pickup right there. Gonna save these Marauders. The Banelings rolling on forward, but Ragnarok is starting to plummet. He is skint broke. Only 26 lings on the production, and he loses this base once again, losing quite a bit of his production in the process. And so Cure, with the 50 supply lead, should be able to keep pushing quite handily. He just can't give Ragnarok a lot of time to recover from this. Yeah, look at that. Only 5 Banes on the production tab. I think this is the last Azov for Ragnarok. As Cure comes in here, some beautiful Widowmine connections to kind of close this one out. As the last Banes try and find their way through, GG is called. Cure down here in the bottom right position with a very strong start. He just needs that little push to go over the finish line. Give it up for Alpha X's RAGNAROK. And his opponent hanging out here in the top position. He has kind of redeemed himself after those first 2 games. Can he finish things? Give it up for Dragon Phoenix Gaming's Cure. If you guys see what I see, that is a very fast spawning pool. Now, Cure will be able to have the Reaper out this time, so that's going to help him with scouting a little bit, as well as kind of just deflecting this. Remember, Lightshade is a very short map. Deceptively so. It only takes about, I think it was like 32 seconds to get to your opponent's side of the map from your own natural. So it is one of the shortest rush distances in the pool. Cure getting that confirmation that it is indeed the spawning pool first. So now he knows that he just needs to defend his expansion, which is dropped on the low ground. The Lings will come on out, and it looks like Ragnarok not going to send them across, actually. I gotta say, a little bit interested with that. Just kind of recognizing the fact that he wouldn't be able to get too much done, and maybe expecting Cure to cheese. That might have just been a defensive spawning pool timing. As we do see Cure is just going to go straight into the factory. So, pretty standard stuff. Hellions, maybe Banshees once again, into that big macro battle. I don't really expect too much else. But you know what? These guys have pleasantly surprised me before. We're gonna rotating around, looking for a little bit of an opening. He catches a glimpse of this third base, and that's gonna kind of tell him a lot about this game, because where that third base goes down dictates a lot of the kind of ebb and flow of the first couple of attacks for a Terran player, because you really do want to center your attacks around the third base. So basically, with that, his first attack is probably going to come up here if he goes for siege tanks. It's got a nice position up there on the top. we'll have to keep an eye on that. He hasn't made siege tanks since the first game. Overlord comes in, sees the fact that that tech lab was not on anything. So that tells him that there's more than likely going to be Banshees on the way. One for the creep tumors will be able to get them taking a lot of damage on those Hellions. Like the Ling's gonna try and get a wraparound. We'll be able to get the Reaper, but not gonna be able to crush through those Hellions just yet. Not in high enough numbers to do so. We do see that first Banshee kind of dancing around, trying to decide to go into the main base or not. Does not have cloak, so that is a... Actually, that's a Viking. Never mind. They all look the same on the minimap. I like this, though. Getting a little bit of utility with that Viking. Trying to deny some of that mining for just a minute. And going to be able to get out of there as well. The Queen's out of position for those Hellions. So he will be able to push that creep back quite far. And remember, that is a very important thing for the early game to get rid of that creep. Because without that creep, there's no vision for Ragnarok. Nothing really too much to say at this point. Both these guys just kind of powering up, getting their upgrades in, and kind of choosing their tech path here. I do see that Spire going on down. Did Cure see that is my big question here.
Add-on complete.
Looks like the answer is not yet. That Banshee not in position to do so. As the Hellion's going to try and get rid of some of that creep once again, pushing on forward. Yeah, he's got to have seen it by now. And honestly, I think at this point, he's kind of going to expect it because that's kind of Ragnarok's bread and butter, those Muta pushes. We do see the Hellions still getting quite a bit done with that creep denial. I'm actually really impressed with that. Ragnarok not being very proactive about keeping his Lings forward. In fact, kind of prioritizing getting rid of those rocks on the bottom side, but that will mean that they find this army. And here we'll be able to kind of push that back. No Banes in the equation just yet. Okay. So now the Mutas will be out. Kira has to be careful about where he engages in. He doesn't have a ton of Marines yet, and he also doesn't have any static defense for those Mutalisks. So that's why he's got to be very careful here. He's going very far onto the edge of creep. One wouldn't mind. Gets about 9 kills, which is pretty nice. The Mutas find the Hellbats, so they won't really get too much done. I feel like Cure might have AFK'd them a little bit too long. If he had have kept them as Hellions, he might have been able to get in there and actually get some drone kills. In terms of upgrades and everything, these guys are actually pretty equal on those +2, so it's not going to be really straightforward on who comes up ahead. It's going to come down to the splits. It's going to come down to the positioning. Honestly, it's going to come down to when either side transitions into the next stage of the game. Here, still trying to be aggressive over here. Ragnarok will be able to split away these Lings, so he's not going to take huge hits to the Widow Mines this time. But Cure will still have his army back at home. He hasn't lost too much. Take a look at this battle report here. I don't know how Ragnarok is killing his own Lings. It's quite a mystery to me overall in this series. Like 59 have gone down, and I think about 12 to 15 of those have actually been Ragnarok killing his own units. Mito's kind of just dancing around, forcing Kier to stay at home to defend. We see, for the first time in a while, Kier going to be going for a small-time drop. Now, this will get scouted by the Lings down there at the 4th base, but that does tell Kier where this attack is going to come from here. Ragnarok looking for a pretty big pincer attack. This could get very dicey very quick for Kier. Glitch in the overlay? What do you mean, boss? Oh, you mean the Lings killing each other? Nah, I think he might be A-clicking them. I think he might be accidentally A-clicking his own units. That's kind of what I think is happening. Oh, but Kier finds this. He doesn't pre-spread versus it, but he will be able to clean all of that up. On the top side, Ragnarok did go home. He is critical mass right now, so he is going to be able to go up to Hive Tech off 92 workers. But here we go. Ragnarok is just going to go for the big F2A move here. A huge Widowmine connection. Going to get rid of a lot of these Banes, but there's so many of them. Cure microing back to his heart's content, but there's so much more. The Mutas going to be coming in. The Lings going to be crashing through. And that is a ton of SCVs going down. Is it going to be enough? So far, 17 workers have gone down, but Ragnarok is going to be forced to retreat for a second. But he's already got his max out once again. So Cura down to 110 supply versus 198. This is looking to be the last fight here. The Widowmine gets a last huzzah, a huge connection right there. The Thor does survive, but it has absolutely nothing to buffer for it. Once again, the natural does go down. 13 additional workers. Cure is microing and macroing for his life right now. But I just don't know if it's going to be enough. Ragnarok killed off the 4th base. He crushed through the natural. Cure below 100 supply. And that is never a good sign here. Just take a look at that battle report. Even with killing his own Lings, he's killed off so many workers, so many Marines, so many of everything here. And I think from here, it's kind of just death by 1,000 cuts. He can take that kind of trade all day. Sorry about that. And yeah, I think he's just going to be looking to close this one out. Another big round of Lings, a couple of additional Banes. Cure forced to stay in this defensive position for such a long time. And soon the Ultras are going to be out. Ragnarok just going to be punching his way through this pre-split. It's pretty good. He does kill off a lot of these Banes, but the rest of them are going to find this army on the 3rd base side. Cure actually able to hold on for now. See, I'm wondering where a majority of Ragnarok's supply is in. I guess he's got a lot of it in these Mutas that he's not choosing to fight with. But yeah, deceptively so. Cure is holding on still. Yeah, tons of drones. That is true. Funnily enough, Kira is actually very close in terms of that armor supply, so that might be what's killing him here. The fact that he has 102 workers might mean that he just doesn't have enough army to kind of fight this through. But Kira trying to establish this 4th base, that is not going to be able to go down, I don't think. But here we go, the Bane's going to be pushing their way through. The pre-split, not the best, so a lot of these Banes going to get some decent connections here. He crushes through the SCV line, and now the Meta's going to be able to get a kill on this base. And, ooh. I mean, Cure, he's looking pretty dead right now. He's got to do something, and he knows it. That's why he's going to get this foray onto Creep. But there's just not really too much he can do. He's going to get a lot of these Banes, but there's so many more available, forcing the pickup here. A nice little move from Cure, going to do the drops in a consistent manner. But yeah, he just has to pick up. He has to get out of there, and that is going to be it. GG is called, so not the cleanest of victories, but in the end, it is good enough for government work. As Ragnarok will move on to the finals.